An Indian girl. Are you crazy, Brian?
Yes. His family weren't impressed with me. They clearly disliked the fact that I was Indian and not American, as they'd probably expected.
Who are your parents? Are they rich? Or do they dance on the streets for a living?
They were decent people, ma'am. They're dead now, but were both hardworking farmers when they were alive.
You brought home a farmer's daughter? What the hell were you thinking, Brian?
I can't believe this. I feel like I'm dreaming. This isn't happening.
As if his parents' attitude weren't enough, his sister also butt in, shaming me by speaking with a fake Indian accent.
Are you with my brother for his money? Do you think you can become a madam by sticking to him?
Hi, my name's Annika, an Indian lady who got married to an American man 3 years ago. I've been an orphan since I was 18, so I'd always dreamed of getting married and experiencing parental love from my husband's parents. However, the opposite was the case with Brian's parents. I met Brian, my current husband, during my college days. After my parents' death, my family sent me to America to further my education. I was the only Indian in the whole school. There was one more Indian, but she refused to be identified as an Indian and called herself an American because her dad was white. I did understand her, though. The kids at college didn't like me. They showed their hatred for Indians very clearly, and she didn't want to experience that. All the students hated me, except Brian. He was the most popular boy in the school, due to his striking good looks. At first, he didn't interfere in the hatred. However, after my first year, when it began extending to physical fights from the students, he stepped in. Once, when a group of girls were hitting me because I refused to sing and dance, he stepped in and immediately ordered them to stop. That was the first time he saved me. Afterward, it continued. Whenever he caught anyone hitting me or saying bad things to me, he would stop them. Eventually, rumors began to spread that he was dating me. To be honest, I did like him then. But I never expected him to like me back. He approached me one day and suddenly asked me out. I was shocked. The most handsome male asking me out? I asked him to repeat himself because I was so sure I heard him wrongly. When he did, it was the same. He told me how he'd liked me from the first day I came into the school and also apologized for taking that long to approach me. I agreed to be his girlfriend, and our relationship began from there. We were as strong as thieves. The students tried to separate us with every way they could think of when our relationship got confirmed. When they saw that all was futile, they stopped and finally accepted me. After college, our relationship continued, and our love for each other grew even stronger. My late parents weren't rich, but they were very hardworking. On the other hand, Brian's family were very wealthy. Immediately after college, his father put him in charge of his second company. Brian, in turn, made me his personal assistant. At the time, his parents were unaware of our relationship. They rarely even visited the company, as they trusted their son. So I didn't meet them until 1 year later. Brian had begun planning toward establishing his own company, so he proposed marriage to me. It was in a very beautiful restaurant. I'd thought it was just dinner until Brian went down on his knees and revealed the glittering diamond ring sitting in its case.
Will you be my wife, Annika?
Of course, I didn't waste any time before agreeing. I was sure about our love for each other and was also ready to spend the rest of my life with him. 2 days after the proposal, he took me to his parents' house to introduce me to them. I was so excited to meet them. But it took a whole different, unexpected turn.
An Indian girl. Are you crazy, Brian?
Yes. His family weren't impressed with me. They clearly disliked the fact that I was Indian and not American, as they'd probably expected.
Who are your parents? Are they rich? Or do they dance on the streets for a living?
They were decent people, ma'am. They're dead now, but were both hardworking farmers when they were alive.
You brought home a farmer's daughter? What the hell were you thinking, Brian?
I can't believe this. I feel like I'm dreaming. This isn't happening.
As if his parents' attitude weren't enough, his sister also butt in, shaming me by speaking with a fake Indian accent.
Are you with my brother for his money? Do you think you can become a madam by sticking to him?
I was embarrassed. I bit my inside cheeks to hold the tears that were threatening to spill out.
Can you both tell me what brought up all of this hatred? This is a lady you're meeting for the first time today, and you're embarrassing yourselves like this in front of her. Shut up, Brian. Open your eyes. Are you blinded by her charms or something?
He probably got trapped by the singing and dancing. Indian ladies are known for that, even though they're bad at it.
They were mocking me so much that I felt so bad about myself. The memories from when I was bullied in school as a result of my race returned and pushed my tears out. I quickly grabbed my bag and left. I could hear their laughter behind me as I left. That day, Brian had a huge fight with his family that led to his father nearly disowning him. I couldn't bring myself to speak to him or answer his calls. I felt like I'd embarrassed him so much and was ashamed. I stopped going to work and just stayed at home all day. He would come, knock on my door, and even sit there for hours, but I refused to open the door. One day, nearly 2 weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number, which ended up to be his mother. When she requested to see me, I felt a little hope rise in me. I thought she was going to apologize and accept Brian and I. However, I got the opposite. His parents and sister asked me to leave him and go far away from him. I was pissed and lost my patience. What if I refuse? Huh? I've been trying to avoid him, but with this, I won't anymore. I love Brian and I'm going to stick with him. What's wrong being an Indian? Huh? We're humans too. You have no right to make me feel bad about being Indian. They were taken aback a bit. But the next minute, his mother and sister pounced on me and began to hit me mercilessly. I ran out of their house with marks and injuries all over my body. When I got home, I called Brian and told him what happened in tears. He quickly left work and went home, gave them a piece of his mind before he came to take me to the hospital. Fast forward to 6 months later, we both had a small wedding at our church, without his parents available. Only friends and co-workers were present, but we didn't mind. After our wedding, Brian left his father's company and started his own. Together, we began to grow the company. We stayed away from his family for a whole year. 1 year and 6 months later, Brian and I had pushed his company so hard that it was rated among the top 10 in the industry. One day, I sat him down for a conversation. Honey, I don't like the fact that you aren't on speaking terms with your family because of me. Please, reach out to them. He vehemently refused, no matter how much I begged him. He told me how his father had been a racist to non-Americans. In addition, his father raised him to be the version of himself which he was unable to be. Every school he attended were schools his father wished to attend. His major was the one his father wanted, and he'd hoped Brian would take his company to be the number one in the industry. He disliked his father for making him live a life for him. He was able to take all of that in, but he drew the line when it came to me.
I love you, Annika. I can allow anything else, but I'll never allow them to decide who I'll be spending the rest of my life with. I can't sit and watch them make me lose the first woman I've ever loved.
I was touched and determined to make him happy, seeing how far he could go for me. Together, we pushed his company even more. Soon, we were among the top 2, having to compete with just his father's company. Brian did not only want to defeat his father, but he also wanted both his companies off the top 10 chart. Of course, I supported my husband. The universe stood by our side and helped our sales and popularity increase even more. We celebrated our 2 years anniversary alongside the company being number 1. That angered my father-in-law. He found our home address and paid us a visit with his wife. They both threatened to do unthinkable things to us if we didn't step back for him.
I dare you, Father. Is this what you were scared of? Is this why you made me live your life? I'm better than you, Dad. Accept that.
I didn't think my father-in-law would do anything until I was suddenly kidnapped, a month after I got pregnant. My father-in-law was behind it.
Torture the Indian cow until she begs for death.
I would have been killed without anyone knowing my whereabouts. But luckily, I had earrings that could help in tracking my location. Brian had gotten it for me a week ago. His father's company's sales had reduced even more after my husband's company partnered with 2 other companies, bringing them to top 3 and pushing my father-in-law's to number 4. He was suspicious of his father doing something to me, so he had me wear the earrings. Apart from location tracking, it could also make recordings if I touched it. My father-in-law's hand had touched the right one when he slapped me, so the conversation was recorded. Brian informed the police when I got missing, and plans to rescue me were made. Brian secretly came with the police and the media on the 3rd day. When my father-in-law and the kidnappers realized the police were outside, he tried to run and jump through the window. However, due to his size, he got stuck. Unfortunately for him, the media captured everything, leading to the apprehension of him and the kidnappers. The news spread like wildfire. The headlines were about my father-in-law kidnapping me because he was a racist and didn't want his son to marry an Indian. And on the news, they showed footage of my father-in-law stuck on the window while trying to escape from the cops. Brian had intentionally brought the media to capture every moment. He also released the audio to them. When I heard that the top investors in my father-in-law's company were Indians, I was disgusted by his hypocrisy. When the news went around, his company suffered greatly. The investors pulled out and came to my husband's company. Majority of their customers also transferred to my husband's company, since he produced the same things as my father-in-law. My father-in-law's company was reduced to nothing. He and the kidnappers were also sentenced to 15 years imprisonment each. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law came to us, kneeling and apologizing in tears. They had nothing left. Their workers had resigned and most got employed by Brian. The company had become useless. They knew they'd be broke soon. However, Brian and I refused to forgive them and had them chased out. When they continued visiting, we put a restraining order on them. We later heard that Brian's sister got married to an alcoholic who constantly beats her, while his mother now works at an Indian restaurant where she is constantly being bullied. I hope she is doing better, but apparently her boss is very strict and forces her to dress like an Indian while at work. After I birthed our son, Brian got another certificate on the course he wanted and afterward started another company. I was in charge of the first one while he grew the second one. Soon that also became widely known. Life was going well for us, and we couldn't be more grateful. I did beg my husband to forgive his mother and sister, but he refused and asked me to never speak about them again. Of course I won't. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.